The Beatles? Man, that's a weird name. That's what I thought when I first picked up this record that was left in my room after my mom went and got all those records to find the song that I talked about in the previous video. Hi, everybody. My name is Bishop Friesch, and I want to welcome you back to My Life Through Music. The next song I'd like to talk about is A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. And it was released in 1964, approximately 7 years before I was actually born. And it would be another 7 years before I would actually hear it for the first time. And me hearing it, again, came from the result of my mom leaving this stack of records in my room. And so over the next few days, as I had these records, and let me show you just real quick. I'll just show you real quick. This is the stack of records. There's not many left. I had more, but this is all that I have. And again, this is one of them. I keep these here for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's kind of funny. It's high enough to raise up my microphone stand so that I can kind of speak into the microphone. And secondly, it serves as a symbol, if you will, of what I'm doing and kind of how I got to this point. And so I kind of leave them there when I'm doing this. So that's why I have them there. So I have these records in my room, and I wanted to listen to them. So what I did was I just took the first one off the stack, the top, which again, the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, and I put it on the record player, and I put the needle on, and the first thing you hear is this incredible sound. And I didn't know what it was. But when you go and listen to it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you hear this sound, it's out of this world. I mean, at least it was to me at that age. Because I had never, up to this point, I had never listened to music seriously. I mean, it was always on, it was in the background, but I never actually went in with the purpose of listening to music. And so I had the record, I put it on, and I listened to it, and you get this incredible sound. And of course, it's a guitar chord. It's the guitar chord, but it was like nothing I never heard of before. And then these guys, they start singing, and I listened to the song, and I immediately picked up the needle, and I went back and I listened to it again and again. And again, and I listened to it over and over and over again. And I'm sure, my mom didn't mind. I hope she didn't mind, because it was her record, her favorite group, the Beatles. And I remember, though, because of how small our house was, the living room was literally on the other side of the wall where my bedroom was. And it was the very first time of thousands of times that my dad actually had to come in, open my door, stick his head in and say, "Turn it down." And I just thought it was so funny, because I'll get into that later on as we get further down the road. But that was the first time he told me to turn it down, turn the music down. And I remember my mom trying to explain how important the Beatles were at the time, and what they were to America and culture and music, and the kind of impact that they had. But I didn't get it. I mean, I was hearing her, but I didn't really understand. Just like the song, I mean, at that age, A Hard Day's Night, if you can imagine, in my very short window of actual music listening experience, I went from a kind of a pop song, Band of Gold, to the Beatles' Hard Day's Night. And it was like, wow, there's a big difference between these songs. Because think about it. Again, you have the chord in the beginning, and then you have the drums and the cowbell going on. I mean, it was like, wow, this is incredible. And the one thing that I try to tell my kids or explain to my kids when we're talking about, music, particularly this song, is that this is the first time I'm hearing this stuff. I had nothing to really compare it to, and they would have something to compare it to. They've had 15, 16 real years of music listening experience, and they're coming back to this song, whereas I was starting from basically ground zero, and I'm hearing this for the first time. So I try to give them the kind of perspective of how it impacted me, listening it from my perspective. And it was funny because when I was preparing my notes and going over some stuff, my daughter came over and she was asking me, about it. And, I know that she knew what a record was. I mean, up to this point, we didn't have records in our house. I mean, we don't have a record player. Everything's, we listen to music a lot differently nowadays. But I knew she knew what it was. But I had her come over and I said, here, this was your grandma's. And I want you to just kind of take a look at it. And I gave it to her. And she's kind of like looking at it and she's kind of feeling it and sizing it up. And she kind of opens and she takes it out of the sleeve and she's looking at it and she's kind of feeling the grooves and she's like, wow. And I'll never forget this. She said this. She goes, wow, it's so real. And I was like, yes, that's the point. That's what I'm trying to say, That's what this is all about. So back to the song. It's about a guy. And, he's working and he's working hard and he's working long and he's looking forward to getting home. He's looking forward to getting back to his girl, and he's thinking about, taking some of his hard-earned money and spending it on his girl. And now I'm listening to this and, I didn't have a job at the time, obviously, but I was starting in my own primitive way. I was starting to see and kind of generally get the idea of what a hard day's night might have been like. And as I mentioned before, I listened to this song over and over and over. And when I find a song that I like, I still do that to this day. And I never get sick of it. I listen to them over and over and over because I want to hear the songs in as many different ways as I possibly can. I want to hear it in as many possible ways. And what I usually do is first, especially back in these days, I would try to hear the words and learn the words first. I mean, back then you had to listen and hear the words. You couldn't just look up on the internet or look up on other ways to find music lyrics. You either had to listen to it and figure it out, or if you were lucky, some of them in the sleeve had the words printed inside on the paper. Not too many did it, at least at that point. But I want to try to learn the words first, and then I want to try to listen to how the words are being sung or how the words are being said, because I want to get the context, I want to get the feeling, and I want to get the emotion of the song. And after that, I'll go back and I want to listen to the music. And I want to listen to different areas of the music. I want to hear the guitars, I want to hear the drums and any other instruments that are being used, because what that does for me at least is it fills in the blanks of the song. It gives the song color. It gives the song shape, and it gives form to the words, and it starts to bring the song to life. For an example, a silly example, in this song, again, in the beginning you get this chord, right? And it kind of, to me, it sets the tone of the song. And then you got these guys, they come in and they're singing, they're singing, it's been a hard day's night and I've been working like a dog. And then as it continues, you kind of hear a difference, and you can compare it when they say, I find the things that you do, they make me feel all right. And it's like when they say it and sing it like that, it's more of a soothing feeling. It's almost like I was talking with my other daughter, and I was like, we were talking about this particular song, and I was like, when they say that, it almost gives me the feeling like, yeah, the guy finally gets home, and he's sitting in his chair, and his wife comes over and kind of starts, rubbing his shoulders a little bit, and he's like, when I get home to you, I find the things that you do, they make me feel all right. And you can kind of sense that, he's feeling better because he's at home. Anyways, now again, I didn't get that at 7 years old, but I started to get, as I kept listening and listening, I started to get the general sense of things. And it started to make sense much later on as I continued to listen in this way. So, having said that, what was your first Beatles song? I mean, there's a million of them out there. I mean, there's so many Beatles songs out there. What was your first Beatles song? And it's funny, as I was writing these notes down, and as I was writing this question down, after I wrote that question down, the first thing that popped into my head was Bad Company's Shooting Star. And the reason why it popped into my head was the first verse. It says, Johnny was a schoolboy when he heard his first Beatles song, Love Me Do, I think it was, and from then it didn't take him long. So, what was your first Beatles song? And how did you come to hear it? Where were you? What were the circumstances? How did it make you feel? And what impact did it have on you on how you actually listen to music to this day? So what I really want you to do is I want to encourage you to go and find this song, however the best way it is, however it is for you, the best way to find the song or listen to it. Maybe it's already in your library. Maybe it's in a playlist. I should have a link to it at the bottom, as well as I'll put Bad Company in there just to kind of get to you to see what I was thinking about when I was writing some of the notes. But listen to it and let it speak to you. Let it speak to you, your first Beatles song. Let it speak to you, and then go back and try to remember all the things about the questions that I asked. And maybe one day, just one day, maybe that song will find its way into your My Life Through Music playlist. As always, I want to thank you so much for being with me, and I'll see you in the next video.